Okay, welcome back. So we will be now going over the questions, or yeah, going over through, the answers of each particular question. So for question one, create a program that will have a function of the int data type. The function should return three parameters of the integer data type. The function should return the largest value from Z3. So let's go down here. So I've just went ahead and just, coded out the whole program because of time, uh, you know time efficiency. So here I've declared my function, right? So we have a function max3. I called it max3. It receives three parameters of the integer data type, and then we come down here again. We have int, num1, num2, num3, right? So again we have our parameters here, and so now we're saying if num1 is greater than num2, and, right, this means and num1 is greater than num3, then it should return num1, right, because it's greater than all of the rest of the parameters. And then I'm saying else if num2 is greater than num1 and num2 is greater than num3, then it should return num2. And then I'm also saying, well, else if num3 is greater than num1 and num3 is greater than num2, then it should return num3. Now, this is all I expected you to do. Could you have done this in a different way? Yeah, sure. But I sort of expected you to use an if statement. So you needed to have some form of an if statement, right, so that you can return a particular value. If you used a case statement, um, I think I think maybe you should reevaluate your decision because it is a pretty straightforward question. So just um, a few tips on how and when to use case statements is if your conditions exceed three, then I think you should use them 100%. But if they don't exceed three, just stick with an if statement, right? It is clear, concise, straight to the point. With an if statement, you can have much more logic. You can have and, you can have or, you can do all that stuff. But if you incorporated some form of an if statement and then you also used the return statement, then I think you were good to go. And then when we come up to our main function, we now declare our values, our variables, num1 is equal to 8, and so I just gave it arbitrary values. So num2 is equals to 11, and then num3 is equals to 44. And then I also declared a variable called max value. So I then said, max value is equals to max3, and then I passed in the arguments num1, num2, and num3. So the reason why, again, I declared a variable is because, well, the max3 just returns a value. Max3 returns the largest integer value from the parameters that it essentially has. So that's what max3 returns. So when you're calling max3, you can't call it like a void function, right? Max3 has to be stored in a variable, right? So anything, even if it's a double, you need to store it in some form of a variable, right? And so then I've just outputted my variable. And so now if we run the program, we have 44. So if we can maybe say, mess around with the numbers a bit, let's just make that 23. Let's just, so it's going to return 34, right? Okay, so that's our program. That's the first question, already done and dusted.